when it comes to your furnace, I mean, as the title of the episode suggests, my furnace is running fine, right? So we talk all the time about how a lot of us don't even realize that our furnaces could be doing better because it's almost like a gradual decline in the performance, because you notice when it just stops all of a sudden, right? But the things that happen because of age and wear and tear and stuff like that are a lot harder to notice sometimes. And so that's what I kind of want to talk about is, what are the ways that our furnace deteriorates over time, and what are some signs that a homeowner might actually recognize? Let's go. In the House is an Any Hour Services podcast where we talk about things homeowners should know when it comes to maintaining and repairing their homes. I'm Mike Wilson, and today I've got Richard and Kevin, their managers over the HVAC maintenance, service, and install departments at Any Hour Services. With y'all's experience, what are some of the most common effects of age on a furnace?
Yeah, I think it just one of the things that we notice a lot of the time is it doesn't heat as well as it did.
Okay.
So,
meaning does that mean you have to turn the thermostat up higher to reach the same level of comfort? Maybe you had to do 70 degrees before, but now you have to bump it up to 72?
No, more so it takes longer to get to that 70 degrees or 72,
Got it.
When it was new, it would get up to 70, 72 degrees, whatever you have it set quicker. Now it's taking a lot longer to get up to that temperature. The house is still the same, but...
So if you think back to how it used to work and you actually give it some thought, is it taking longer to heat the home?
Yeah.
What are some other things?
Maybe that you notice that you're hearing it more often. You go for 5-6 years in the house and you never even remember before hearing it. Then all of a sudden, just over not a super long span, you're like, man, I sure hear my furnace a lot more than I remember hearing before.
Right. What else?
Energy cost.
Utility bills going up. So, I think a lot of people, that might be one also that they might not recognize because they assume that over time with just inflation and utility costs increasing, that could be why their bill is going up. But, your furnace is using electricity and gas, and so you're going to pay more the less efficient it is. Right?
Yeah, as some of those parts start to wear out, they'll draw a little more.
Right. Okay, cool. What are any other things that people might recognize?
Doesn't blow as hard as it did.
Okay. Meaning
the air coming out of the registers
feels weak.
Yeah, it feels weak. It doesn't move the drapes, or if you have drapes or something like there.
Gotcha.
It doesn't move them as much as it did.
It seems to feel colder than it did, just not quite as warm as it used to.
Okay. So, I guess we're going over a lot of these things, and I do want to get to a point where maybe we'll just do this. We'll take each of those and just kind of talk, because I want to know, are people that are listening, if they're experiencing any of these things, what are some of the things that they could do to minimize the effects of age? Because, aging is going to take its effects. No furnace is going to last forever. Parts eventually wear out and stop. But, we also know, like a car, the better you are at maintaining it, keeping it clean, and just taking care of it over time, the longer that thing's going to last. Your furnace is very similar. So let's talk about some of the things that we could do to take better care of our furnace that might help it to last longer, age better, stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the first ones that you guys said is that it takes longer to heat the home, or it's not heating as well as it used to. Let's talk about some of the causes. Why would that be the case?
One of the causes could be that it's just the overall furnace is dirty. It's got some restrictions and something like that. And so we talked about it in the previous episode that it's overheating. Okay. So it heats up the best it can, and then it cools down. So that could be one of the things that it's dirty.
Okay. So what parts get dirty, and how does that affect its ability to heat?
The blower wheel gets dirty. It's got those little cup fins that move the air. Those get a little dirt on there, and that just doesn't move the air that it did once. You've got a coil that could get dirty there again, so it's not moving the air that it's supposed to be, and it's causing it to overheat.
Filters get dirty?
Filters, yep, a dirty filter, or what we see right now a lot of is really restricting filters. Get that allergy pollen one or that dog hair one or whatever it is, but that restricts your airflow a lot, and it causes it to overheat. We do run into that quite a bit. It's a great filter. The problem is the ductwork isn't designed for that thick of a filter.
So you talked about the really nice filter, the ones that like filter out a lot more stuff. I mean, we hear all the time about the poor air quality in Utah, and maybe people think they need to go get a nicer filter, but that is a side effect, is that, you know, it restricts the airflow. And if you're not feeling it blow as hard, or it's like not heating the home as well, if it's not able to move as much air, or it's like going slower, that can be one of those causes of that. Dirt's a big cause of it. So I guess then if dirt's a big cause of it, like what's something that they can do? I mean, the dirt doesn't start out in the furnace itself, right? So I mean,
would make sure the filter's clean and make sure you don't have a restricting filter.
Got it.
You know, if you notice that, take a vacuum and vacuum out the blower compartment. You know, if you're comfortable taking that panel off, vacuum the panel out, vacuum your overall furnace. Just be careful. There's components in there that can break. Just be really careful.
So vacuum around it, vacuum inside of it. Just, you know, stay away from wires and things like that. Make sure you have a clean air filter. What about like restrictions out in the house as far as like vents that are closed off or returns that are blocked?
That new couch that you got, or that new entertainment stand or something, make sure it's not blocking a return or vents. Or if you've got a room that's, you know, hey, I don't use this room, close the vent off. You know, when you close vents like that, it could possibly, you know, cause more wear and tear on the system because it's causing some pressure issues and stuff like that. But open them up.
Okay. All right. So we talked about also utility bills going up. Like what's causing that, and how can we like minimize that, if that makes sense, right?
There's several different things that can cause it. As your different motors, you've got a couple little motors that are on that furnace. As they start to wear out, they can draw extra amperage.
Why are they wearing out? Because that's what I'm wondering. Can we do anything to like keep them from wearing out?
It's like you said, they're gonna wear out, but you can minimize it. Keeping the airflow going. One of the big things that I've found is you find a lot of furnaces in rooms that share space with a dryer, or storage type areas. And so a lot of people will pack things around the furnace. Your furnace itself, they've got louvered doors and different things, and there's areas of it that need to be able to breathe, so that some of those components will function right. And then along those lines, like I mentioned, the dryer, you get a lot of lint in the air, and you know it can get in there. You know, we talked earlier about a flame sensor. It really can build up a lot of stuff on that little rod and make it so that just with time, even a lot faster, you'll start seeing a lot more short cycling, starting and stopping when it's not supposed to be, and all that can contribute to a little bit higher bills and different things.
Gotcha. So when you say short cycling and going off and on, so maybe you hear the thing fire up, but then it goes off quickly, or you there's air coming out of the vent, but it's cool. It's not warm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you notice your furnace turns on and it doesn't get up to the temperature by the time it turns off, it's short cycling for some reason.
Gotcha. Or yeah, like you say, you go to the thermostat, you call for a certain temperature, it'll blow warm for a little bit, but then it shuts off, and then it blows warm again, and like it takes it going off and on a few times before it actually reaches the temperature that you called for on the...
Yeah, on motors, the most powerful, when they start up is when they draw the most amps, and that's where it's going to cost you, charge you more to operate them. And so you want as minimal on and off as possible. But if it's short cycling, it's on, off, and it's not very efficient that way. Same with the gas. You get that burner box that we light on fire, right? If you get that metal chamber that heats up and then it cools off because it's overheating, now it has to turn around and reheat that thing back up, and it's going to cost your utility bills to go higher.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Is the gas that it's burning, is it similar to the motor where like you're spending the most gas when it's like initially kicking on, or not really?
No, it's going to be the same there.
Gotcha.
It's just the cooling down period. Like now you have to cool down and reheat that item. That's going to cost you.
The fact that you're having to redo it.
The things that people notice. I mean, I'm hearing like a common thread, like either airflow or dirt is a big cause of the thing not functioning the way that it should. and that causes more stress and strain on the system. So let's break it down just real easy, because if that's the best way to maximize the life and the performance of the thing is, number one, maximizing airflow, number two, minimizing dirt. Let's just walk through a couple of quick suggestions on, number one, what are the best ways for them to maximize airflow?
Open your vents.
Okay. Open the vents around the house?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody thinks that, it's I get extra, or I'm trying to push air to this other part of the room, and so they'll close off certain vents. And oftentimes the design of the duct that was put in there needed all those vents to be open. And so it can actually be bad for your system. Not every system. Some systems can handle it just fine, but that's pretty common to find systems where it needs to have those vents open.
Yeah, I usually recommend to people, like, don't close more than 20% of the vents. Like, if first start with everything open and see how the thing runs. And then if you are going to, like, close vents because you've got it in your head that that's what has to happen, don't close more than 20% of them. So go around and count the vents up. If you've got 10, don't close more than 2. If you've got 4, don't close more than 20. If you've got 20 vents, don't close more than 4. And then if you do that and then you notice your furnace starting to not perform as well, go back and open those up. So, okay, so go around, make sure vents are open. I'm assuming that also goes for make sure that the return airs aren't blocked. What are some other airflow restrictions that they should pay attention to?
Filter, making sure the filter's clean. We talk a lot about that on this show.
Is there an easy way for them to, like, know if it's dirty or not? Or too dirty. Does that make sense?
What I do is I hold it up to light.
Okay.
And if I can see, like, it's really good and it's basically no restricting, then it's a clean filter. If it really dims it down and you can't see as well, it's a dirty filter.
Because, for those that are watching the show on YouTube or whatever, like, if you look at these two filters, before it got to that really dark gray, I'm sure there was a light gray version that if you held it up next to this brand new white one, it would have looked dirty, but, like, being able to know what's that too dirty. So take it out, hold it up to the light. If you can't see light through it, you're not getting enough air through it.
Yeah, you're going to see light even through this dirty one. We're going to see light, but you're going to tell it's a drastic different. If it's drastic, it's too dirty.
Gotcha.
And anytime you have a clean filter, it's better for it anyways. If there's a doubt, change it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they make filters super cheap and easy to be able to do that without too big of a cost or hassle.
Now, you also mentioned don't stack things around the furnace, because I think a lot of people's furnaces are in, equipment rooms. And I know at my house sometimes that turns into a little bit of a storage room. And so making sure that things aren't – is there a recommended space that you should keep them away from the furnace?
Code, when you're building a house, at least around here, you've got to have in front of the door or in front of the furnace when the door is closed, you got to have 6 inches.
Okay.
Right. So that it can breathe and draw the air in for whatever else. We go into some houses and they got stuff stacked all the way around the furnace.
On top of the furnace.
Right up tight. Yeah. And that is going to affect how that furnace operates.
Gotcha.
The 80% furnaces, they have louvers on the front door. That's how it gets the air to breathe for the oxygen for the flames. And if that's restricted or dirty, it's going to change the way that that burner is going to run, and it's not going to run as efficient as it could.
Well, that reminds me. When you're talking about that combustion air in the room, like a lot of equipment rooms will have like a big 8-10 inch pipe coming into the room, bringing fresh air from outside. And during the winter, it's cold. Like, I was over at a friend's house and I was talking to him about some things, and I went to his equipment room, opened the door, and he had that pipe there. And standing out in the hall, it's a little bit warm, but when you open that, you can tell it's a little bit cooler in that room. And I had him hold his hand up, and there was a breeze coming out of that. And his thought was like, well, why am I letting cold air into the house? And what I've seen at a lot of homes is they'll stuff a pillow or a blanket or towel or something up in there because they're like, well, I don't want the cold air coming in. But that can be just as bad as stacking stuff around it, because you need that air for any gas burning appliance, right?
Now, that is something that a lot of people, it's a misconception. We've even had up to, maybe you'll have to edit this out, right? I'm going to say it anyway, though. One of our utility companies, right, around the area, was actually telling people, and when I say utility, it was a third party that they were using to help them get some stuff done. But they had certain employees that were actually telling people, oh yeah, that's affecting your energy consumption on your house. You need to stuff a pillow in there. And it wasn't until we had a few things come back to us that we were able to actually contact the utility provider. We gave them specific addresses and they were able to get that fixed, right? So if it's something that you didn't realize or somebody doesn't, that's a very common misconception that people have out there.
Wow. I didn't realize that there were people going out and telling people to actually. How long ago was that?
That was within the last 2 months, month and a half.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I need to bring that up on the radio. I did not even realize that. Okay. So people are having these energy audits done.
Yeah, and I don't know I don't know if it was an energy audit or exactly what the scenario was, why the people were out there.
Sure.
But in the course of having a person in their home, they were told by the representative of the utility company that, hey, you need to fill that in because it's not good for your energy efficiency, right?
But it wasn't the actual
utility utility company. It was a third party that they had helping them out. So,
got it.
So that's why I was like, I don't know, do we say this on...
Well,
anyway,
we're not calling anybody out.
Yeah.
And I think it's useful for people to hear because if they have had someone tell them that.
And in the utility company's credit, to their credit, we let them know. And they're like, oh, thank you so much for letting us know that. And they jumped right on it to figure out what was going on. But my point in bringing that up is this is wide misconception that vent is a bad thing when it needs to be there.
Right. Any other like airflow maximization techniques like that are common? We talked about filters, vents, that air coming in, not stacking stuff around. I think those are kind of the basic things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about maximizing airflow. The next one was minimizing dirt. So let's talk about that a little bit more specifically. A clean filter, obviously.
Clean filter.
A lot of people think that the filter is there to clean the air that you're breathing, but its main purpose is to actually keep the furnace clean, right?
Protect the system. Make sure the filter actually fits well inside. We see a lot of, I've got a filter, but there's so much air that gets around it or it's not the right size.
So how do they check that? Do they just...
when you put the filter in, you can kind of feel if it fits right or if it's snug or something like that. But if it like just kind of wobbles everywhere,
if you see gaps,
gaps.
You know, there's a lot of different styles of filter rack, which is why it's hard to say a one way to do it. Hopefully, there's a thing somewhere on there that says what size you use.
If you use like bricks to hold it in place, it's probably not.
You've seen that?
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
Bricks, wood,
wow,
duct tape. Yeah, we've seen all sorts of different stuff. Yeah, that's typically not a good filtering system.
I've seen filters where it lays loose, and then when the thing comes on, it like kind of gets sucked up into place or whatever.
That's the duct tape we see a lot.
Is that
it? Because it won't. They just tell you, well, every time I change a filter, I duct tape the top of it to where it won't move.
Interesting. Okay, you also talked about sometimes the rooms that the things are in, like laundry rooms, attics where there's insulation. In the laundry room, you've got lint from the dryer and things. And especially if you've got louvers on the front of the door, when that thing kicks on, it's like a little vacuum and it pulls in anything that's in the air or on the ground around the thing. It creates a vacuum going towards the furnace, and that can come in. And through the door, if it goes through the louvers on the doors, like that's after the filter. So that could be a way that the thing is like pulling air in. So do they sweep around it, vacuum around it, wipe it down with a rag?
Keep around the room.
Yeah, keep things clean.
In that room, keep if it's dusty or something, vacuum the room.
I'll tell you,
I
I went to a tune. This is completely, well, anyway, I went to a tune-up one time, and older couple, super nice couple, and I went down to his 55-year-old plus furnace, and the thing looked brand new.
Wow.
And it was because they kept around it super clean. They weren't afraid to wipe things off and everything else. And I mean, 55-year-old furnace, the thing was in immaculate shape and was running perfect.
Wow.
And I mean, that's just because they were very meticulous in making sure their surrounding and everything was just clean.
That's great. Yeah, when you brought up, Richard, earlier about how the blower fan can get dirt building up on the fins, it actually made me think, because like people might not quite understand that or like be able to look at it, but I would say that take a look at your ceiling fans. If you have ceiling fans and the blades have on the leading edge, like have, dirt that builds up on that, more than likely you've got some dirt building up on the leading edge of your blower fans as well. And so every time you go and clean those, just realize that like no one's down there cleaning that blower wheel, and it makes the thing less efficient, because if it doesn't have that clean scoop to move as much air as possible, like that dirt on the leading edge really like minimizes the amount of air that it can move, right?
There's a lot of engineering that goes into that too, so it's going to wear that motor out sooner also.
Right. And when it's not doing that, that increases the amp draw on the thing, and it increases your utility bills. So all of that stuff, all caused by a little bit of dirt buildup on, and it doesn't take much, right?
No.
And I mean, I guess over time that could throw the thing out of whack or out of balance.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And stuff
We have
like
that
too,
happen,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, cool. So, airflow, keeping the thing clean. Now, you talked about going and performing a tune-up, and I think that I don't know of, except maybe this elderly couple, I don't know of many people that have it on their cleaning checklist. You know, you've got, mop the floors and vacuum the carpets and dust and do all the things like that. But at my house, the furnace isn't on the cleaning checklist, right? So talk to me about this annual maintenance that needs to be performed.
It's something that recommended by the manufacturer, right? And when there's so much, I mean, like we're talking about, so much that depends upon cleanliness, right? A lot of times we're getting in there to see, one, the state of things, and two, if there's a way to prevent anything from getting to a bad state by looking at the cleanliness. There's a lot of stuff when we're talking about just the furnace itself on the inside. We're not even talking about the air that's blowing and getting drawn in and blown throughout the house. We're talking just the stuff that's going inside the unit. And that's where we're going to get in and check the different components and whatnot to make sure that things haven't got to a point to where it's costing you more money, things that are about to fail, that kind of stuff.
Right. I heard someone describe once, like when the system is brand new, it works really, really well, right? The way that it was designed to, if it was installed properly. But every hour that the thing runs, you've got heat, you've got vibration, you've got parts moving, things expanding and contracting. And every hour that the thing runs, year over year, hour after hour, the thing gets a little bit further out of alignment, I guess you could say, if you want to make that car analogy again. And the purpose of us coming out and performing that annual maintenance, and the reason that manufacturers want you to do it, is because they know that the thing's going to last longer if you can keep it clean, keep it in as close to brand new condition as you can get it. And you can only accomplish that if you're actually taking care of it and coming in and doing that maintenance periodically. And so, once a year having your furnace looked at, once a year having your air conditioner looked at, because even though there are parts that they share that run all the time, you still need to check those. The ones that run all year round, you should check them twice a year, but the parts that only run during the season, you only need to check them, once a year. So I think in this day and age, people, they want that magic bullet, or the silver bullet, or that the quick fix type of thing. And out of those three things, maximizing airflow, minimizing dirt, and having that annual maintenance done, if we were going to recommend how do you get the most life out of your furnace with the least amount of effort that you have to put in, like from listening to you guys talk, I would probably say keeping a clean air filter and making sure that you're having that annual maintenance done, because part of the annual maintenance is cleaning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, filters are way over or underlooked at. Like, we don't do a good enough job just as a whole as we go through houses. Like, filters are way more important. Like you said earlier, the filter is designed to protect the system. It's not necessarily designed to clean the air of the house. That's kind of what it's understood as, but it's actually was designed to protect the system.
So, I mean, there you go. Even though your furnace is blowing some warm air, if it is over,
Just one thing. I was just sitting here thinking, a common phrase that I heard a lot when I was running a lot of service was, well, it's never had a problem before. I heard that a lot. Well, it's never had a problem before. Something to keep in mind. These are mechanical systems, right? And they can run for years and years and years without a problem, but they will eventually at some point in their life have a problem. And the whole goal is to extend the amount of time without problems, right?
Right.
But when it gets to that point, don't be surprised, right? I mean, they will eventually have something that wears out on them.
Gotcha. That's a good point. And I think it plays right into that as far as like, it's never had a problem before, but you haven't actually noticed how the problems have been adding up over time because it kept going. It's like me as I get older. When I was younger, playing basketball, being active and stuff, and just over the years with the extra pounds, like whatever, I can still tie my shoes. I can still bend over. I can still do some things. I can actually still play basketball, but not with the same intensity, not the same efficiency. And it's even more obvious now with a senior that really loves playing basketball. And, me thinking like, never had a problem playing basketball before. Then all of a sudden my knees start hurting, back starts hurting, right?
A little more ibuprofen.
Right. As things get older, they just don't work as well as they used to. But I guarantee I probably, looking back, could have done a better job of taking care of myself physically, Could have
got a little more life in those legs.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, our furnaces is no different. So even if it's never had a problem before, just understand if the thing is over 6 years old, 5 years old, 7, 10, 15, the older the thing is, the more important it is to stay on top of that maintenance and to have someone check it out to make sure that you're extending the life for as long as possible. So any final thoughts?
No, thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your input and your experience with this topic. All of those that are listening and watching the show, thanks so much for your attention. We'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode of In the House. If you'd like to know more about Any Hour Services, visit anyhourservices.com. I've been your host, Mike Wilson, and you've been listening to In the House.